Hello and welcome to the knockout stage predictions of the World Cup here on the FPL Scope YouTube channel. I am Matthias, and with me I have Kevin, who's co-hosting with me throughout the whole World Cup while Kimo is on his vacation in Egypt. And today we've done our teams for the knockout stages in terms of World Cup fantasy, but now we're going to look back at our predictions from the group stages and see how much we got correct and how much we got wrong. And at the end of the video, we're going to have our full predictions for the whole World Cup. Now that we have the full bracket, all the teams that went through the group stage are now clear. So we're going to go through it together. Kevin and I, we're going to decide, we're going to argue and see what happens. But something that's inarguable is the results of the group stages, because that's done and dusted. The game's just finished right now, half an hour ago, just about. And Switzerland went through, took this last place. But yeah, Kevin is here as well. You can introduce yourself. How do you feel about your group stage predictions, and what do you think about the bracket that we have?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the group stage predictions, I mean, obviously I went a little bit boring with, or rather, instead of going boring, I went with some wild predictions, including Iran. Obviously, I could have played it a bit more safe with some of these predictions, but generally speaking, it's been a very unpredictable World Cup as well. So you can hearken some of the results being so wonky because so many things happened that we couldn't have expected, including Japan. I still can't believe, what we've witnessed with Japan. We saw Korea win against Portugal. We just Morocco going crazy and Belgium coming, getting knocked out as well. It's just been a wild couple of weeks, days. Just been a really fun World Cup, which sucks because I want to boycott this World Cup, but at the same time, it's like a car crash. You just can't look away.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I don't know, just the matches itself. Football is beautiful. It just transcends everything that's happening off the pitch. Football is always something that's really fun for everyone. Even this World Cup, to give some credit to Qatar, it seems like all the stadiums and everything is working really well. Obviously, they've pumped in a lot of money to make everything everything happen. But yeah, there's been some really good matches, and like you said, it's been really unpredictable. The only thing that has been sort of predictable is Group A. As you can see, we got everything right in terms of Group A. There was just one more thing I was going to mention. Yeah, on the topic of unpredictability, we just saw Brazil lose to Cameroon, and then basically that means that not a single team won all three matches in the group stages, and all the major teams, pretty much except for Netherlands, lost like a major match. So yeah, Group A, it went as predicted from both of us, who both had Netherlands number 1, Senegal number 2, Ecuador number 3, and Qatar number 4. And that's exactly how it ended. It was kind of interesting between Senegal and Ecuador. Ecuador surprised some people, but I think I haven't looked back at our group stage predictions and what we mentioned about this group, but I feel like we both said that Ecuador have some talent that might tip it in their favor, but it just wasn't enough for Ener Valencia and the boys. But they certainly left an impression and did a really good World Cup. But at the same time, Senegal, they are the African Cup of Nations current champions, reigning champions, and they deserve to go through. And then now they play England in the round of 16. So it's going to be interesting to see. Is there anything at all? Obviously, this group went as expected, but is there anything at all that surprised you from the group?
I think I thought Sadio Mane was going to be such a huge miss, and I thought Senegal were in it, with all the teams and everything like that. And I think even if they had been in a different group, yes, Netherlands kind of underperformed or were a bit underwhelming, but I think Senegal would have kept up with a lot of teams in the World Cup. So I'm thoroughly impressed. And yeah, I think just generally speaking, in terms of the group, it sort of went as expected. We expected Qatar to come dead last. Then came the whole, in the very first game against Ecuador when that decision went against them and everything like that. I was like, oh, here comes the bride, here comes the FIFA money. But yeah, I think everything went sort of as expected.
Yeah.
It's just fun that Senegal sort of picked themselves up after a sort of disappointing lead or opening to the World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, they lost to the Netherlands, but they still looked pretty good for like 70 minutes before they conceded twice
Of
when
course, yeah.
Gakpo made his entry and really showed why he should be starting for them. And that's what he's done ever since and scored for them. So Netherlands, they haven't looked like super impressive, but at the same time, they've been pretty solid. They haven't really messed up so far. Like I said,
100%.
they still haven't lost. They didn't get the full 9 points, but still decent from them. Because they drew Ecuador, obviously. But yeah, that's enough with Group A, and that's enough of us just being completely correct. I think I have one more group that I have completely correct, but other than that, it's going to be a lot more red colors than green colors. Obviously, we have green colors for the correct predictions, and then we have the red colors for the incorrect predictions, like in Group B, where I had 2 correct and Kevin had 1 correct. We both had England number 1. That ended up being correct. England pretty easily won the group. They destroyed Iran in the first match, and from that point on, it was pretty much their group to lose, and they didn't. They impressed in the final game against Wales. They didn't play as well against the US, and that served well for the US, who ended up number 2. I predicted USA to be number 2, and that was correct, but I had Wales number 3 and Iran number 4, and Iran proved to be better than I expected, but they did not prove to be better than you expected, because you had Iran number 2, which is sort of, I think we should credit you for that, because Iran is usually like a candidate for 4th place. That's pretty much why I picked them number 4. Of course, looking back, hindsight being 2020 and all, I should have had them above Wales because they have more talent really than Wales. Wales have Bale and Ramsey or past it, while Iran have Taremi and all these guys, Jahan Bakhsh. They have players that are on the up really, so that's why they made it like an interesting group. Obviously, they easily could have gone second as well above the US if they have just won the final match. It could have gone both ways, so I feel like we should get some credit for well, neither of us had Wales going through at least, so for that I think we deserve some recognition at least. But you missed out on 3 predictions, but you had Iran correctly. What surprised you about this group?
I think, I mean, like, I already know that USA is normally one of those teams that show up. I mean, they've shown this several times in the past, and credit to them. They showed up when it mattered most. I think the thing that like completely threw me off their scent, it was the fact that in the qualifying and everything like that, they've been pretty terrible leading up to the World Cup, but then were amazing. Or I think amazing is a bit of a stretch, but you know they did the business right. They drew against Wales, they drew against England, and then they won against Iran. And that Iran game could have gone either way, which is why I feel a bit vindicated by Iran's performances. That despite everything that's going on in the country, despite everything, they gave a good account of themselves at the World Cup, and all those players should be very proud of how they performed. It's just unlucky against US. You know, they had the penalty shout. I think it was fine that it wasn't given, but generally speaking, that could have ended a draw, and that could have changed massively proceedings as well, because then Iran would have actually come second. But yeah, I think in terms of the actual group itself, we always knew England were going to come first. I just wasn't expecting Wales to do that bad, to be fair. I thought they'd show a little bit better than what they did, but they just completely collapsed against Iran. Got a pretty lucky result against the US, and then obviously got battered by England, which I guess most of us were expecting, unless you were Welsh. So, yeah, other than that, not really that surprising.
Yeah.
But in terms of my predictions, I was being a bit too generous, or being a bit too adventurous, because obviously otherwise probably would have kept USA at least second or third rather than keeping the fourth. But I based it a little bit on just hoping that Iran would come second.
Yeah. I think if we would have done like a joint prediction where we like combined our selections, with me having faith in the US and you having faith in Iran and none of us really believing in Wales, we probably both would have put Wales at fourth, which would have been correct. And then depending on who made the better arguments, we'd have the correct number 2 and number 3 as well if we did it joint. So that's what we're going to do with the knockout stages. We're going to do one joint effort rather than 2 separate efforts.
Sure.
But yeah, that's going to be coming up eventually, but we will have to go through all the other groups first. And now the Group C, which was all correct for me once again. Argentina number 1, it wasn't surprising, but after the first match with the loss against Saudi Arabia, you would not expect that this would be the result in the end, with Argentina number 1 and Saudi Arabia number 4. But yeah, Poland didn't really impress that much. I felt like Mexico should have probably gone through, which is what you predicted. You predicted Mexico number 2 and Poland number 3. Well, I did the opposite. I got all 4 correct, but I feel like this is also one of those toss-ups where number 1 and number 4 seemed kind of clear before the World Cup. Saudi Arabia, to be fair to them, surprised some people. They showed some fight, and they were a decent team, but they didn't have enough to put up against the great players of Argentina, Lewandowski for Poland, and then Mexico just having like a cohesive and good unit really. But yeah, obviously the first result in this group was super shocking. But other than that, what do you take from the group?
I couldn't believe how cowardly Poland were throughout the entirety of the Argentina-Poland game. I think this is going to sound crazy, but I think it's a genuine miracle that Poland ended up going through because of just how cowardly they were playing. I mean, they did not, from start to finish, they did not look like a team that could win that game at all. They definitely, after conceding goals, they definitely didn't try to score any goals either, which to me is shocking. Like, regardless of you expecting Mexico to not outscore and all this type of stuff, you need to play your game. And I felt sorry for Lewandowski more than anyone. Obviously, as a Barcelona fan, I want Lewandowski to do well and etc. But there was a time where there was a ball, and mind you, 10 Polish players are in their own half. A ball gets whipped to Lewandowski at left wing, and he's alone trying to dribble past the Argentinian players, and none of them join him in the attack. Not a single soul. So he just tries to do a hold-up play, hope for a free kick to then eventually get everyone. Obviously gets dispossessed, and then Argentina start their counterattacks and go. Argentina was extremely lucky not to win that game 4-5-0, which would have helped send Poland and Mexico all the way around. Whilst Mexico were just constantly attacking, got super unlucky in the game against Saudi Arabia, and then conceded as well as part of the ultra attack. But I think at the end of the day, Polish fans won't give a shit about that. They'll just be like, well, we did what we needed to do to go through. But Mexico should be really proud, and especially Guillermo Ochoa, who's been such a wonderful World Cup staple. And I really hope he can, try and wait until the U.S. World Cup, and that would
U.S.
be awesome.
And Mexico World Cup.
They're
hosting
course
as well. So.
Yeah. So I hope in
Canada.
some capacity that he keeps playing until then, because he's been a wonderful, wonderful performer and just a memorable football player in terms of the World Cup capacity.
Yeah, he'll be 41 years old, I think, for that World Cup, U.S., Canada, and Mexico. It's going to be a fun time in 4 years from now. But we still have some nice Qatar World Cup to look forward to as well. Just another point on Ochoa. It was sort of meant to be that he saved the penalty from Lewandowski, with Lewandowski chasing his first World Cup goal, and then Ochoa just being like a World Cup legend. Those two are like the complete opposite of each other. Lewandowski has been a legend in the club level. He's one of the best strikers of all time. I personally think he's super underrated. I feel like he's a top 5 striker all time, really, personally. We should probably do a video about that at some point, doing rankings and stuff, but that's an idea for another time. But yeah, Ochoa, kind of the opposite. For Mexico, he's a legend. Club level, he barely played. He has like a couple matches in the league, I think, and just been playing in the Mexican league. Hasn't played really that many club matches, but for Mexico he always delivers, and he did once again. But it just wasn't enough, because obviously Poland had their own shot-stopping, penalty-saving goalkeeper of their own, so that was just enough. Mexico just needed that one more goal. Even after Saudi Arabia conceded, they could have scored another goal and gone through, but just wasn't meant to be for Mexico. But maybe it is next time when they host and stuff. I feel like they have something good going. They have obviously some older players. They've gone through sort of a generational shift with the Santos brothers, Chicharito, all these guys, Herrera and Guardado, obviously, and Ochoa, just getting older. But now they're getting some younger players, and we'll see what they can do next time around. But for now, Argentina and Poland go through. We did pretty well with the predictions. We both could have had it right, to be honest. And yeah, ended up like it did. Moving on to Group D. This is, well, I have more correct placed teams than you, but I feel like you did a better assessment of the group beforehand, because I was pretty high on Denmark after qualifying as like the first team. They were pretty much the first team from Europe to qualify for the World Cup. They looked really good in the qualifying stages. So I even said that they could challenge France for number one, not because France are that bad, but because I thought Denmark would easily beat Tunisia and Australia and then potentially grab a draw against France and maybe go number one. But Denmark completely flopped, went number four, looked terrible. Tunisia and Australia looked better than them, to be honest, throughout the whole thing. So, but yeah, obviously France won the group. We both had that correct. We both had Denmark number two, even though you had less faith in Denmark than I did. You still expected them to be better than Tunisia and Australia, who were looked at as like really poor opposition. But fair play to Australia, they came second. I had Tunisia third and you had Tunisia fourth, so I got that correctly, but that was because Denmark did worse than I expected. So I got 2 correct out of 4, but I feel like I got more incorrect in terms of Denmark. So yeah, what was it about Denmark that made you not have as much faith in them and be correct on that point?
I think it's because they're worse than Sweden. Okay, I mean, just to be completely serious, I think the issue that a lot of people have is, and I think it sort of proves to show, qualifying to the World Cup is not the same as playing the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I said about USA, that I thought due to their qualifying, they would be terrible, and then they end up being great or serviceable. Whilst with Denmark, who were amazing, and to be fair, like I can't even make jokes about that. They genuinely were amazing in qualifying. They just don't have that World Cup. For me at the time, they just didn't have that World Cup. I don't know if it's a mentality or experience or what it is. Something just didn't seem right to me, and I was proven quite right immediately because they were terrible. I wish I could stop smiling and try to be like fair about it, but genuinely they were terrible, and it doesn't bring. It's a great shame that I have to say this, but and I can't stop sounding sarcastic, but genuinely, I think the issue with Denmark is the fact that they're a great team, but sometimes you do need that X factor about you to take it that one step further. I was hoping Skuvåsen could do that, but he just fell apart immediately. Christian Eriksen, is not the Eriksen of old.
Yeah.
I mean, who was their striker really? I mean, like Yusuf Poulsen didn't make it and all this type of stuff. So, and Cornelius was just absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
so
she has been for most of his career.
yeah. So like, there was just something about Denmark that didn't click, but I was convinced by yourself and by their whole record that they could still come second somehow. But clearly, when I very jokingly, but was sort of backing the fact that they'd be bad, should have just gone all the way and be like, yep, they're going to flop it. But kudos to Tunisia for beating France, was it? And, hilariously, we'll be talking about this, but, I picked Kazri at match day 1, and he ended up scoring the winner against France and almost got an assist as well, if that one offside goal had counted. So you know what, kudos to Australia. They really impressed me. I thought again, another victim of me looking at their record and everything like that. They looked terrible, but they were amazing. They really could it be due to them being acclimatized to the weather, or could it be just honest, brave football that took them further. I
Yeah.
think it's a mixture of both, and I think all Australians should be proud. I sadly, to all my Aussie friends, I hope the journey ends because, as we'll see very shortly, Australia has a match with Faith, and Fate's name is Leo Messi. So we'll talk about that a little bit further. But I
Yeah.
gotta say, I was shocked and surprised, and we're gonna be seeing a lot more of that the further we go into the groups.
Yeah, I think just to that point of Australia surprising a couple of people, just like the US, I feel like in the World Cup, that's sort of the magic of the World Cup. Teams that are representing like a whole continent, they sort of have a lot of pride in going through the group stages. So you can see Australia, obviously, they have their own continent. Sort of, they're part of the Asian federation, but they still like represent a whole another part of the world. Same as with the US. I just feel like their cohesiveness and stuff is just what brings them through. And Australia did really well. They even took the lead against France, so they've surprised some people, including both of us. So yeah, like you said, all credit to them. And good luck against Argentina. We'll see. Maybe they'll surprise some people, but highly doubt it. We'll see that when we go to the brackets, but that's not just yet because we still have a couple groups left to do, especially Group E, which was the most surprising group out of all of them, the most entertaining group in terms of the final match. Everything that happened, Japan losing to Costa Rica in the match between beating Germany and beating Spain. The crazy ending with Costa Rica and Japan at the one time they were both going through, when Costa Rica were beating Germany and Spain were losing to Japan. Just a crazy group where once again I got 2 correctly and you got 1 correctly, but yet again I had Germany ahead of Spain, so I had Germany higher ranked than they should have been. You correctly saw that Spain were better than Germany. You just didn't foresee Japan beating Spain in the final match to stay ahead of them. So yeah, if Japan had lost to Spain as expected in the final game, you would have had everything correctly. But Japan just keeps surprising us, and to the enjoyment of a lot of people, it seems like they're like the underdog favorite out of the whole world, really, because you know how they clean up after each other, after themselves, after the matches, both in terms of the fans and the players. Japan is also a well-liked country because of anime and all that stuff. Like, there's a lot to like about Japan and a lot to like about their national team as well with all the players. Interestingly enough, though, with Japan is that they keep benching their best players. They keep bringing them on. Ritsu Doan been amazing. You have Mitoma, the Brighton player, who's been outstanding. He was the one who saved the ball for the winning goal as well. He's been amazing every time he's come on. Asano keeps coming on. I don't know why Ueda keeps starting when Asano is just proven to be better time after time. They have so many fun, interesting players to watch, and I'm really happy to see them go through as number 1. Obviously, Spain number 2. They were practically the best team in the group, but they were sort of going second was probably a blessing in disguise for them. They went over to the easier side of the bracket, and they avoid Brazil in the quarterfinals, which they would have had if they went on the other side. That's for Japan to do if they beat Croatia, but we'll see about that. Germany surprisingly went out once again for the second time in a row. They went out in the group stage, and once again it was an Asian team that knocked them out, which is interesting. Costa Rica, we both expected them to be 4th, but they were also, talk about a Jekyll and Hyde team in terms of losing 7-0 to Spain, then beating Japan kind of like a fluke, and then leading against Germany when Germany were going for the win as well. Like, it's not like Japan beating Spain is sort of more understandable because Spain didn't really have anything to play for, but Germany had everything to play for, and Costa Rica still took the lead against them. But it proved too difficult for Costa Rica in the end. Germany had, I think they hit the post 3 times between 1-1 and 2-1 to Costa Rica, so it was only a matter of time before Germany turned it around, but it wasn't enough because Japan beat Spain, really. So, yeah, I probably don't even have to ask what surprised you the most about this group, but yeah, anything that sticks out from this group that you found enjoyable or that some people haven't touched on, I don't know. Do you have anything interesting to add in terms of this group?
I mean, for starters, I think it's absolutely insane that you can be the coach or manager of a team and not realize that you're actually currently going out of the tournament, which happened with Lucho, where he didn't realize that Japan and Costa Rica were the teams going through and didn't even react in a crazy way or anything like that. He was just playing his game as normal. Obviously, uh, and I don't want to take anything away from Japan, and I think a lot of people will be saying that I'm trying to be snooty here, but I think if Spain had started their strongest 11, we might have seen a different result.
Yeah.
It has to be said. And, throwing a bunch of the starters in very last minute when things look a bit shaky, yeah, you're bound to lose like that. No disrespect or to discredit Japan's win. They won fair and square. They started their as best of 11 as they could. Yes, they benched a bunch of players randomly and all this type of stuff too. But if Spain had fielded their strongest 11, we don't know for sure that it would have definitely been a 2-1 win. And
Yeah.
also the controversy of the winning or one of the goals that Japan scored can be debated. I personally believe that he saved the ball and
It's clearly
FIFA's, and I think FIFA's sort of
technology.
even, yeah, like I think they did an excellent job. I'm glad that it was given, but obviously that, people are going to say change the game or whatever like that. But genuinely speaking, very happy Germany went out because of everything they've done to Sweden in the past. But all things considered, huge shock. It's a huge shock. I thought
Mm.
we were singing the praises of the squad. We were singing the praises of Hansi Flick as well. And now we don't even
Yeah.
know for sure if Hansi Flick will have a job
Yeah.
by the end of this World Cup. We don't know for sure. I mean, we know Thomas Müller is now retired again from the national team, and basically, this is a golden generation of players that were coming up. I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan of Serge Gnabry. I think Leroy Sané is amazing, and I'm really happy that he's had sort
Renaissance
of
of sorts.
yeah, like a renaissance of sorts, because we always were so high on him even in his Schalke days, and he was so good at City, and he went to Bayern and things sort of looked a bit iffy, and then all of a sudden he's back to being a superstar because
Mm.
that is the quality of him. I think for me another thing is I feel that it's super harsh to say, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I think Musiala was a bit of a disappointment, regardless of the fact that he he was great. He didn't have the margins with him, right? But at the end of the day, at the World Cup, that's what you're meant to do. You need to score, you need to assist, and you need to do that. He did everything besides that, right? He came so agonizingly close, so many times, so many wonderful dribbles, all this type of stuff. But a part of me wished he got a goal or two in these sort of pivotal moments to
Yeah.
like raise his game and stuff like that. Because now I don't think he'll be in the running to become young player of the tournament because
Yeah, they went out. So
yeah, so exactly. So like
no, I'm gonna push back on that. I think he was Germany's best player. To be
okay,
honest,
sure.
it's just like you said, he was unlucky not to score and unlucky not to assist. Like he set up his teammates perfectly several times, but just they wouldn't score. They had the most expected goals throughout the whole group stage. He was a major part of that. He made the offense flow. It's kind of like with Messi against Poland. He did everything right, but he still didn't get an assist or a goal. He was clearly a man of the match. He got the man of the match, even though he gave it to McAllister. I feel the same with Musiala. I said before the World Cup that felt like this was his like coming out party. Like obviously he's a huge name. Well, he's a big name. He's not a huge like household name just yet, but people that know football know that he's an amazing player.
Of
And I thought
course.
like this was his time to shine in front of the whole world. But sadly for him, it didn't end up like the margins went against him. He didn't get the goals, didn't get the assists, and that's what really makes you a household name, to get the goals and assists. So I think it was really unlucky. I don't think it was bad. I think it was just really unlucky, and that's not the last thing we've seen from Musiala,
Of
from
course
either
not.
from Germany or Bayern. And I know you're a huge fan of him as well, so it's not to say anything about that. But it's just I felt like he was amazing. It's just the end product. if we do this, if we simulate the same group stage several times, I think he's going to get a lot of goals and assists. That's why I backed him throughout the group stages in terms of fantasy as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like again, I think it is a bit of a harsh thing to say that he was a disappointment, but it's just more that man, there were also some decision making that he did that I was just like, why did you do that? Like
Yep.
there was this one clear cut chance where he just all he had to do was, as FIFA players say, do the sweaty goal, just do that pass, and he refused. He took the shot, and it reminded me a lot of Sterling back in 2018, if you remember, when he was the same sort of situation happened where um, the journalists and the media, obviously, and I'm just going to downright say it, obviously a black player getting more scrutiny than some of the more English players and all this bullshit. And it got to Sterling's head. I'm not trying to insinuate that that's the same thing that Musiala went through or anything like that, but it definitely played a part in his mind where he had to have his name in lights, and that's why he took the shot instead of pass. Sterling had a similar situation where he could pass Harry Kane when they're both through on goal, and he took a terrible shot. Musiala did the same thing. Had Musiala just done the pass there, it would have changed the game completely. That is the sort of thing that makes me a bit disappointed.
Yep.
The difference, for example, and obviously it's unfair to make the comparison, but Messi, for example, right?
Yeah.
With Messi, it was chance after chance after chance that he created and should have had multiple assists for, but like Julian Alvarez got pushed in the back, McAllister missed just wide, and then like Lautaro missed this and all this type of stuff. So, but it's the fact that you knew, for me, it was more apparent that like someone like Messi or something like that, the chance creation was just perfect, right? Whilst with Musiala, it eventually became an issue for him that he hadn't scored or gotten assist, and then it sort of messed up his decision making on both.
Yeah.
Does that mean that does it mean that he was a disappointment? No, but let me put it this way. I'm disappointed that it wasn't an even more productive World Cup for him, because I thought this was his time to shine.
I mean, like we said before the group stage, we both said that he would have like a breakout World Cup, and he sort of didn't. So to that point, I guess I understand your point of him being like a disappointment in terms of that, just because we had such high hopes for him anyway. Absolutely. And Germany just didn't deliver, and he's partly to blame for that, I guess, but it's also just a bit of being unlucky and stuff. I felt like Germany, I had obviously predicted them number one in the group. I feel like they could have done that as well. They were pretty even with Spain when they played Spain. They lost to Japan. They probably should have beaten Japan in the first half before Japan turned it around in the second half. So yeah, it's just a really crazy group. Same with Costa Rica. Japan should have easily beaten Costa Rica as well, so that would have made the group completely different as well. So it's just...
Would have been 9 points instead of 6.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, but like, it's just a really fun group, and really happy to have watched most of it. I didn't get to see that much. I've seen the highlights from Musiala in the match against Costa Rica, but I was watching Japan-Spain mostly in the final match day 3. But yeah, it's just a really fun group, and we've talked about it quite a lot as well, deservedly so. So
okay, I'm gonna make one final point to piss off all Bayern fans and all German fans.
Sure.
Had Marc-Andre ter Stegen been in goal, I think Germany might have gone through. I don't understand. Yes, Manuel Neuer has had his renaissance and all this type of stuff, but in terms of this season and like last couple of months and stuff like that, have you seen how many clean sheets ter Stegen's kept? And not just because, the defense is working. It's genuinely thanks to him for Barcelona, who are notoriously known for having a terrible defense and just been conceding left and right throughout the last couple of years. For you to take him on the plane and not play him a single time just because of your absolute love for Manuel Neuer and what he's done for your country, I thought was a stupid decision, because definitely some of those goals that Neuer conceded were savable.
Yeah. And especially against Costa Rica, he was at fault for pretty much both of the goals. So Yeah, I completely agree with that point. Neuer, he is one of the best goalkeepers of all time, but it's time for Ter Stegen to take over for Germany. As part of like they've done a lot of changes in terms of getting younger players in, but now Miller has said that he's leaving, he's done for Germany, and I think Neuer should do the same. Just let Ter Stegen shine really, because he's also another amazing goalkeeper from Germany. They keep making these amazing goalkeepers, and he's next in line. But yeah, that's enough about Group E. Really fun group, like we said. Let's move on to Group F, which was also kind of a fun and interesting group. One of the teams that did not make it that fun, apart from just the surprise factor of them being terrible, is Belgium, who obviously went out. They ended up third in the group, and they really didn't really impress anyone. Even in the opening match against Canada, they should have lost. So Canada were kind of like a interesting and fun team, even though they lost 4-1 to Croatia and stuff. They were humbled in the end, but they probably should have beaten Belgium and put Belgium fourth in this group, because Belgium were just really bad, and the whole vibe of the whole team was just terrible throughout the World Cup. De Bruyne just did not look the same at all. He's always been a bit like mopey and complaining when it comes to Belgium. He was harsh against the Nations League, said, I don't see the point of Nations League. I'm tired of playing, was it Switzerland, or what was the team that he mentioned?
Something like that.
Something like that. Like he just doesn't seem to be happy playing for Belgium, coming from Man City where everything is perfectly set up for him. But obviously he's an amazing player still. But in terms of, I obviously everyone rates De Bruyne higher than Bruno Fernandes currently, but this World Cup has shown that it's not that big of a gap as many people thought between those two players. But yeah, De Bruyne and Belgium, I think even more than Germany. Germany, like I said, had the most expected goals. Belgium just looked terrible. Obviously, they had a lot of expected goals with Lukaku by himself in the end, but they just didn't impress at all. And to be fair, I had them second in the group. I said this for the group stage predictions. I don't have as much faith in them, and I thought it was kind of a tricky group where all the teams could get points. And yeah, I was sort of proven correct. I should have gone all the way and just had them to go out of the group stage, but in the end I didn't have as much faith in Morocco and Canada, even though Morocco, just looking through their squad, they have so many good players. We mentioned this before the World Cup as well. Obviously they have Hakimi and Ziyech should have been the main stars there, but Aguerd is good. He scored his own goal against Canada, but he's a great centre back. They have Nesiri, who's been really good for Sevilla. And they just have a lot of fun and interesting players. So credit to them. They came number one. Croatia number two. Croatia were really, really, really good as well. They beat Canada 4-1, and sort of lucky not to concede against Belgium, of course. But I think they're a really solid team. Their midfield is just potentially the best midfield in the whole World Cup. The players that they have, even though Modric hasn't really been like super high standard in the World Cup. But yeah, Canada also like a fun addition to the World Cup. Looking forward to them growing older together. They have a really young squad, so hosting the next World Cup in Canada along with the US and Mexico, it's going to be a fun time for them, I'm sure. I'm happy my boy Samuel Adekugbe, who came on in the first two matches and then started in the final match. He forced Aguerd to do an own goal in the final match. I'm happy for him. He played for my Norwegian team, Vålerenga. So I have a lot of love for him. He's one of my favorite players in terms of like personality wise. He's always smiling and happy and just stand up great guy really. So yeah, Canada, I'm sort of sad that they didn't get any points, but there's next time for them. But Belgium, the big disappointments. I'm sure you'd agree. I haven't really spoken that much about Morocco, but they won the group obviously and were great. But yeah, what are your takeaways from the group?
I mean, I think this is the best way to describe it. It's disappointing that Belgium played the way they did and all that type of stuff, but it's not surprising considering who the manager is, because Roberto Martinez is just such a finished coach to not be able to do more with the squad that he has. I also think there was way too little prevention from Martinez and his coaching staff, because all the players are so public about their beef and just how much they like the older generation of Belgian players were just hating on the youngins, and the youngins were hating on the olders, and the in betweens just hating on every like. There was no harmony in that squad. It obviously showed in the sort of play style, and then obviously Dinosaur Martinez tactics are just completely outdated or completely just don't work for a team that is favorites. Like he would do well in a counter-attacking Canada, for example. I'm
Yeah.
not trying to say that that's his level, but that's just what his play style is. It's
Yeah.
not the free-flowing, fun attacking football that he should have. And again, underutilized players. Leandro Trossard was completely wasted in this World Cup. Lukaku has apparently gone out and said that he was ready to play more matches and more minutes. They just didn't want to rush him back. And look, I'm gonna defend Lukaku until I die, sort of thing. Like I have so much love for that guy, even though he can be a little whiny guy. I, I yeah, I mean Lukaku obviously probably cost them a chance at staying in the tournament because he missed 3 golden chances. The only thing that could explain what happened is if anyone, and this is a deep cut, if anyone watched the show Quantum Leap, where the main character would jump into people's bodies at random parts of time, that would explain why Lukaku tried to score with his stomach, because I don't understand how you get such a cross and you try to like use your belly to score. Quantum Leap is probably what happened. Sam Beck had probably just got into his body and tried to score. But genuinely speaking, it has to be said, Kevin De Bruyne was a mopey bitch throughout the entire tournament. I don't understand where this disconnect started. I mean, obviously, him and Courtois hate each other, so probably doesn't help when there's so much disharmony within the squad. I think a lot of these guys will be playing their final World Cup in the next one coming up, which is wild to think about. But they just need to start again. They need to figure things out because I love this Belgian side. I love a lot of the players. I think they are genuinely a golden generation. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a reason why they beat England and came third and all this type of stuff and had their amazing moments, you know, knocking out Brazil as well and
Yeah.
all this type of stuff. Like they did so many cool things together, achieved so much. I mean, for me, Batshuayi can say he had a goal against Canada, but for me, his defining moment at the World Cup is him kicking the ball onto the post onto his head. It's one of my favorite World Cup moments ever, and it's a great shame. But kudos to Morocco. Neither one of us thought that they'd even like we both said they're third and all this type of stuff and etc. But they came first. They came first out of Belgium and Croatia. That's
Yeah.
super impressive, and that has to be said. Another thing is Romain Saiss, the forever Wolverhampton troll, did well in this as well because I think he scored or got an assist or
They
something.
got 2 clean sheets from the first 2 matches.
Yeah,
So.
or something. He did well and played well and came close several times. Like Morocco did really well, and I'm
Yep.
really impressed. And it goes to show that playing for Chelsea means that you're a good football player. It just means that Chelsea don't know what they're doing. So, but yeah, other than that, in terms of Croatia, I always thought that they'd come second, but only because I thought Belgium would top the group.
Yeah.
And I'm not. Uh, I have more positives to say about Croatia than negatives. I think a lot of people were like they were super underwhelming, blah 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 blah. I felt they did exactly what they were meant to do, sort
Yeah.
of thing. And I'm actually positively surprised that Kramaric finally lived up to this Bundesliga hype because he's always been really good in Hoffenheim and done really well in Bundesliga, but it never really translated to the national team. You know, everyone was like, "Oh, they don't have Mandzukic, they don't have, they don't have that X factor striker about them."
Yeah.
Give Kramaric more time, and I think he'll do some crazy stuff. Modric to me has been disappointing, and I was not expecting him to play as poorly as he did. Perisic showing again that he's more of an attacking player, not a crazy left wing back that Conte tries to convert, Victor Moses and like quite literally anyone who's a winger to just become a defensive wingback, like Callum Hudson-Odoi and all this wild stuff that he would do. Um, but yeah, Sosa 3.5. He's been, I think, one of the best players in the World Cup so far. A lot of people will probably say that that's exaggeration, but genuinely, I feel like he's done a lot more right than he's done wrong.
Yeah,
Brozovic is still proving to be one of
amazing.
the best CDMs of in the world and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really happy for Alfonso Davis. I think it is so poetic justice that he got to be the first goal scorer at the World Cup and everything like that,
Mm.
especially after missing a penalty as well, which again was the game that they should have won.
Yeah.
That should have been their win.
They should have had 2 more penalties as well. Like they were
Yeah,
kind of screwed by the referee from
yeah,
the Belgium
and
game.
his story, being a refugee and all this type of stuff, and then for him to get to score Canada's, and they've fully embraced him since he came and everything like that, to the point where he was such a young athlete getting to represent Canada and everything like that, and he's still very young. So
Yeah.
really cool moment. I think Group F had a lot of fun storylines and had a lot of fun moments, and it'll be interesting to see how the teams that went through how they'll fare, and we'll get into that very shortly.
Yes, we just have 2 more groups to go through, and that's the 2 groups that were finished today with the final matches. This is the final group that finished with Brazil losing to Cameroon and Switzerland beating Serbia, which meant that Brazil came first, obviously. That was already the case pretty much already the case before the final match. Switzerland came second, surprisingly, for both of us, because we both had Serbia as number 2, like a pretty clear number 2 in the group. Cameroon came third, which I had predicted, but you had them fourth. But fourth place team was Serbia, which was another huge disappointment in this tournament. I had high hopes for Serbia. Obviously, they beat Norway in the Nations League, and just the amount of star players they have, I imagined them going through quite easily, actually, in the group. But like with many of the other teams that have gone out, they had a tough first fixture where they played Brazil and lost. That sort of like spelled doom for them in the group. They were up 3-1 against Cameroon and fluffed that. And then against Switzerland, they even took the lead 2-1, and then they fluffed that as well. So it's just defensively, they were too susceptible of conceding easy goals. They have Milenkovic as a center back who's pretty good, but their star players are more offensively minded. So I guess that was the thing that I probably should have predicted before the World Cup, that they could struggle defending against the likes of Cameroon. Switzerland scoring 3 goals against them says a lot, really, when you think about Switzerland and how they attack. But credit to Switzerland, the 3-2 goals is really, really, really nice. So yeah, another sort of interesting group. Brazil easily going through, even though they lost the final game against Cameroon. Yeah, anything that stands out to you apart from Brazil just going through easily and Serbia struggling?
You know what? Like, we sort of gave a bad rep to some of these lesser teams, or whatever you want to call them. Bubakar was like so stupid that he got sent off in his final match and everything like that. But he had a really cool World Cup and was gave Cameroon a lot to cheer for. I think, generally speaking, I'm super disappointed by Serbia coming last, considering their star power. You can't have a team of a bunch of Syria's best players. I mean, in the sense of Vlahovic, Milinkovic, Kostic. There was just so much star power there that they just completely got wrong. To be fair, I think we were too harsh on Switzerland.
Yeah.
I mean, like Switzerland, we did say Jan Sommer. We, I guess, forgot or something that Shaqiri could still rewind the clock. And,
always scores against Serbia. And
and does the
Albanian
celebration. And credit to Brio Mbolo. He seems to be the sort of player that he's kind of up and down when it comes to the like
everything.
club level.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the World Cup, he just decides to be like, actually, remember when I used to be like a highly rated talent,
Yeah,
and then starts doing like these
exactly.
Ronaldo, like Cristiano Ronaldo, young Ronaldo, like sort of dribbles and all this type of stuff, like
Mm,
stuff that's actually fun to watch, and yeah, contributing. And my God, that winning goal assist by Vargas as well was just
yeah.
unbelievable. Just yeah, credit to them. I don't think they're going to go far, sadly, and we'll be going into that more thoroughly. But in terms of Brazil, I mean, they rested everyone, so it's not that huge of a shock that uh,
Cameroon beat them.
Cameroon won. And also, when you have Ederson just looking at the ball and Jesus, who can't seem to score for shit currently,
Oh,
yeah, it's not that surprising. And Pedro and honestly, Bruno Guimaraes missing that chance was wild. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, you know what? Brazil are favorites still to me. They're one of the, or at least one of the
Yeah.
top three or top four, or whatever you want to call it.
They play
So
without Neymar and like their best player in two of the matches as well. So
and still went comfortably. And
yeah,
if Richarlison and some of the other big hitters had started, probably would have gone a draw at the worst,
yeah,
in my opinion. But kudos to Cameroon. Really fun to see them make a dent in this and actually prove a bunch of us wrong by making Serbia come last again.
yeah.
So shocked by that.
Yeah, like you said, completely underestimated Switzerland. As you can see, I have them fourth in my prediction. I have them even behind Cameroon in the prediction. I'm sitting here with a Italy shirt, and Switzerland beat them in the World Cup qualifying stages. So I don't know why I didn't apply the same logic that I did with Denmark being so good in the qualifiers to Switzerland, who knocked out
Yeah.
Italy. But I don't know. They just keep surprising in terms of World Cups. Switzerland with Shaqiri stepping up. We know Shaqiri has the potential and well, potential. He's old now, but he's always been like his career should have been much better than what it was. Like obviously he played for Liverpool for a long time. He played for Bayern. He has some like huge clubs on his resume, but he's always been like this bit part player. It feels like he's one of those players that if he played for like a lesser team for most of his prime, he would have been more like a huge name. He should have been more of a big fish in a small pond rather than being one of many good players in Liverpool and Bayern and stuff. So, yeah, all credit to Switzerland. Let's see what they do in the round of 16. We'll get to that pretty soon. Just one more group before we get to that, and that is Group H with Portugal being number one, which is what I predicted. They won the group quite easily. They lost against South Korea, obviously, in the final match, which meant that South Korea got number two. Again, that's very surprising. Yet another Asian team that surprised us. Did not expect them to go second in the group. I was watching Uruguay Ghana and just looking to see who went through out of those two teams. And then Uruguay went up 2-0 pretty early. And I thought, like, that's it. South Korea won't beat Portugal. So that's it for them. That's Uruguay going through again. But as fate would have it, South Korea scored right at the end against Portugal, beat them. They got a loss for Portugal, so another huge team that lost in the final day. Credit to South Korea, credit to Handsome Hwang, as I call him, the striker who scored, the Wolverhampton striker who scored the final goal. Happy for him, happy for South Korea. It's fun to see them celebrate after the match, after they saw that they were through. Uruguay, kind of a disappointment. Kind of disappointment for me. Kevin, especially disappointing for you as you had them number one in the group. You sort of went, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, you said that you sort of went with the more cheeky, interesting picks rather than the safe pick, which would be Portugal in this instance. You had faith in Uruguay, and obviously they could have gone through. Probably not as number one. They sort of disappointed me in the first few matches because they didn't play Georgian de Arrascaeta, who I said before the World Cup would be a really good player for you to have in your fantasy team. But then he didn't start in the first two matches, and then in the final match against Ghana, he showed exactly why he should have started both the first two matches, which probably would have made them go through. But yeah, Ghana were also a fun addition once again for the World Cup. Just sad how it ended once again at the hands of Uruguay. There's just something about Ghana and Uruguay. Another missed penalty, a terrible penalty by Andre Ayew. Pretty disappointed. I feel like Kudus, with how amazing he has been in the World Cup, he should have been the one to take the penalty. But yeah, Kudus was one of the standout performers in the group stage. It's sad to see him go out, but at the same time, happy for South Korea. That's the group. Kevin, you got everything incorrect because you had Uruguay first, Portugal second, Ghana third, South Korea fourth. Obviously, the group was all jumbled, but yeah, you could have predicted Portugal won like I did. That was the only correct I had, so you could have done that if you had gone more safe. But yeah, group, why did you get it so wrong? What surprised you?
I mean, everything surprised me because everyone was just beating everyone and all this type of stuff. It was just a crazy. This is, I called it the group of death for a reason. And it ended up being exactly that. Obviously, Portugal lived up to and rised up to the occasion and everything like that. I think Portugal would have gotten 9 points if Leao had just played every single game and all this type of stuff. Like, I think it's absolutely wild that the manager does what he does, but he's known for this, especially when he used to bench Bruno Fernandes and all this type of stuff too. So we're fully aware of what he does. I think the reason I got it all wrong is because I think Uruguay, I think Valverde went into this World Cup being one of the best center mids, if not arguably the best center mid in terms of at least form and everything like that, and was dog shit. Like I think it sounds like I'm being fair, but you guys, like, this video proof of me singing his praises before the World Cup and me saying that he'll be the reason why they do well. And he was absolutely dog shit. He was terrible. He was so bad. Suarez, due to hatred, due to racism, I don't know what you want to call it, roll back the clocks. It was amazing against Ghana. Darwin Nunez was so disappointing as well. I thought this could have been the stage where he can, have a comeback, sort of show everyone. And he was so close. To be fair to him, he was so close against Ghana to score. Had that gone in, that could have maybe changed his mood, could have maybe been the reason why instead of they win 2-0, they win 3-4-0 or whatever it was. But the margins just weren't there. I think the manager did a big mistake with benching De Arrascaeta. And I think, just generally speaking, there were just so many weird substitutions and stuff like that, and star players who didn't get to start from the beginning and all this type of stuff too. It just, maybe you can blame the manager and be like, the manager should have gotten more out of Valverde than Valverde having to perform well, but I don't think that's true. I think Valverde just underperformed. In terms of South Korea, kudos to them. I don't think Son genuinely has had a good World Cup, but then upon reflection with the win against Portugal, he was amazing and they got a really good assist. It's just a wild, wild group. Anyone could have gone through, and that's exactly sort of what happened in the end with South Korea, who we both said would come last, ended up coming second. That's just wild. It's just shows the unpredictability of this World Cup. So if there's anything this World Cup can have any credit for, is the fact that's given us some memorable moments and some unpredictable matches, which has been both breathtaking and also awful. Because it sounds weird. A part of me wanted South. I am glad South Korea are the team that went through, but a part of me wouldn't have minded Uruguay going through simply because I like their style. I like their, especially GDA after this match. I thought he was really cool, and I've seen obviously some highlights of him doing my research and everything like that. But I'd always heard his name, but never really been like, I'd never done my like proper research and never properly watched it. After this, I'm like, fuck, sign him up. Like, what the hell is this bullshit? Why is he benched? It's true. How the hell could he be benched after that? And it's just proves to show, like, you have basically, 3 times 90 matches, 270 minutes to get it right, and people just make the wrong decisions. And I mean, at this rate, currently, it looks like Enzo Fernandez could become young player of the tournament if Argentina keep playing well, or it would be Hakpo if Netherlands do well. So it all remains to be seen. But GDA, man. Remember the
Yeah,
name. I'm so impressed by him, and I think yeah, I'm really sad for Ronald Araujo as well because Barca
yeah,
fan and really think he's excellent. Maybe if he had played, they might have not struggled as much against Portugal, and maybe because of their bit, they would have been more defensively sound. That they would have been able to win the first game and all this type of stuff, which would also change the course of time and butterfly effect or whatever. But that's ifs and buts, right? At the end of the day,
yeah.
credit to South Korea. They did themselves a massive achievement in terms of qualifying. Whether they'll go out straight away will be remain to seen, but that's what we're going to check out right now.
Yeah, just one final point on Darasqueta. He plays with number 10 on his back for Uruguay, so obviously he was supposed to be like a main player for them. Again, just reiterate how stupid it is that he didn't play from the start. But yeah, he plays for a really fun Flamengo team with one of my favorite players, Gabagol, as I call him, Gabigol.
Yeah.
Gabriel Barbosa. Flamengo are a really fun team and really popular team as well. Like they're always trending on Twitter whenever they score. So yeah, that's definitely a team to watch as well. If you have the chance to see Darasqueta and Gabagol and all the players that they have there. But yeah. That's it for the groups. Just one final note on Portugal. We've both been checking our phones during this podcast, and we've seen that two of our most devoted fans, two our good friends of ours as well, Ali and Farah, have been watching the latest episode that we put out when we went through our Matchday 3 squads and our Round of 16 squads for World Cup Fantasy game. And in that podcast, Kevin said that the people in Portugal probably hate you, and Ali confirmed, or Farah confirmed through Ali, that is correct. Farah obviously has Portuguese origins, so yeah, it's just a little fun tidbit for them. So hi Ali and Farah, I hope you're enjoying this content as well. And we'll see how far Portugal go and how far England go, because Ali is obviously rooting for England once we go to the brackets. So yeah, I don't know, where do you want to start? Do you want to start top left? Do you want to start
Yeah,
with any
we can start left to right. That's fine.
top lefts and then top right down?
Okay, if you want to do top, yeah, we can do that.
This already has, because we were doing a test run, so we just did some quick suggestions. That's why it has a couple teams checked already, but
Yeah.
we might not decide on that one. That was just a test. So let's start with Netherlands, USA. I'll let you go first on this one. What do you think of this match? Do you think the US have any chance at all, or do you think this is just an easy Netherlands win?
I think this could be like one of those games that goes potentially to like an overtime win for Netherlands. I just don't think USA have enough firepower to make it scary for anyone. That's the issue. I think defensively they're super sound and they can go to distance with most teams, but I'm not overly impressed by Netherlands throughout their group stages, but they have the firepower. They have Hakpo. The Pie is now finally injury free and it's looking better and better every game he plays. David Klaasen's been playing really well. Daley Blind has like a crazy stat of being like one of the players with the most touches inside the offensive half, like in the opponent's box and stuff like that. So like clearly they have a lot of good things going for the Northberts, kept clean sheets. Obviously Matt Turner's done really well for USA, but what I mean is that I think the end of the line will be that the Netherlands have the better team, obviously, and the better squad and whatever, but they have the firing power to take them to the next step. I think this is where USA sort of sadly bow out, but to be fair to them, they've had a really good tournament.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. I think this is going to be a tighter game that you'd expect. You'd expect Netherlands to just beat USA easily, but it's just something about the US and the World Cup, and something about Netherlands as well. Like a couple World Cups ago when they faced Costa Rica and they went through extra time and penalties. I think something similar could happen again. I think extra time and or penalties is a real possibility in this match, but I think it's just time for Gakpo again to do the final bidding for Netherlands once again, or maybe Memphis Depay steps up now. Like you say, the US don't have that much firepower. They basically have Pulisic and then maybe a lucky Tim Vea goal. He had a nice goal in their first match, obviously. But yeah, I think we're both leaning towards Netherlands here. But I think this could go either way. There's obviously it's going to be tempting to just go with the favorites in every game. As you can see, there are percentages next to the teams. This is 538's World Cup brackets where they provide like percentages based off statistics and all that type of stuff. But yeah, they have Netherlands as a favorite with 65% chance of going through, with US going 35% chance. But yeah, I think we'll choose Netherlands, but we could spice it up if we just keep going favorite. This is one of the matches that we might come back to, and just to spice it up a bit, put US through, I feel like. But for now, Netherlands through, and we'll move on to Argentina. I think we can just check off Argentina. We're both, obviously, we're both, just to be clear, we're both huge fans of Messi. We both want him to win the World Cup. My favorite team, Italy, Norway, are not in the World Cup. Sweden are not in the World Cup. We both want Argentina to win, and that's probably gonna make us a bit biased in terms of this bracket. We'll see when we get to the semifinals and finals and stuff. But yeah, I think Argentina definitely go through. They should really have no problems with Australia. We've seen Australia, they've scored in every match so far, so who knows, maybe they score a goal against Argentina. Maybe they pull Saudi Arabia and beat them surprisingly, but as you can see from the percentages, Argentina heavy favorites in this one, 82% to 18%. On paper, before the tournament, I had Argentina as like one of the favorites and Australia as one of the worst teams. Australia has shown themselves to be better than expected. Lecky had a really nice goal against Denmark. He's been pretty good for them, but they just don't really have the players to withstand Argentina. I feel like this is one of the matches that could easily be 4 or 5-0 as well. As you saw with France, once they got over the first goal conceded against Australia, they just ran over them, and I feel like Messi and Argentina can do the same. So easily Argentina for me. I don't know if you have anything else to add to this match.
I mean, if you just look at it from a non-biased perspective and you just look at it percentage-wise, it's obviously Argentina are heavy favorites, but just play-wise as well, at the end of the day, Argentina have clearly bounced back from the Saudi Arabia match. They've looked better and better for each passing match. Messi probably arguably had his best game against Poland, and that's the game where he didn't score or register an assist, yet it was the strongest match. Like, I think Scaloni is finally getting stuff to click and it's looking really good. Argentina have to go through, and I don't think it's just us being, Messi supporters and all this type of stuff. Like, I think just from a objective standpoint that Argentina are just favorites in that game. It'd be holy shit if Australia do it, but
yeah, we have more interesting matches to get to, so we should probably just get through it quickly. Like this one, it's probably the most interesting match in terms of, as you can see in the percentages, this is the most evenly matched match out of the round of 16. That's Japan against Croatia. Japan surprisingly went through as number one. Croatia, who went to the World Cup final last time, they always have a older team this time around, but I feel like I know where you're going to go with this one, so make your case for Croatia first.
I've already spoke about it in the previous podcast as well when we sort of briefly touched upon this. I think Croatia just have too defensively sound of a team for Japan to do their sort of counter-attacking play. I think physically speaking, they're more imposing and all this type of stuff too. I think Croatia finally starting to get stuff rolling. Regardless of all the misses Lukaku missed and all this type of stuff, and Belgium probably should have won, they still managed to keep the clean sheet and etc. I think Croatia have been underwhelming, but they've done the minimum requirement and they've done what they're meant to do. They're currently undefeated. I think this is sadly where Japan's story comes to an end. But even so, if that's the case, they should be immensely proud of what they've achieved. Even for most teams, even themselves probably they counted with themselves to be out at this point. But they just went after that Germany game. They're like, screw it, we can win the whole thing, sort of thing. Like they just went with that mentality that they can do it and that you shouldn't give up, and they didn't. And kudos to them. But sadly, I think this is where we're finally gonna get that Luka Modric show. I think,
Yeah.
the abilities of the Perisic, Sosa, Kramaric. There's just so much quality in this Croatia side that I just don't think this is their game to lose. And I think sadly this is where Japan's sort of counterattacking football won't be as effective.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Obviously, I hope that Japan win. They are
Me too,
my
to be
second,
honest.
yeah, but they are my second favorite team in the tournament, apart from Argentina, like I said. But yeah, they should just be really proud of what they've done so far. They've beaten Spain and Germany in the same World Cup. I don't think there's many teams that can say the same really throughout the whole history of the World Cup. So they've done their country proud already. They have a chance obviously against Croatia. I feel like if it's a tight game towards the end, I feel like they could nick it. I feel like they have more type of X factor going forward. Like I said with Kramaric, if he doesn't have the best of days, it's up to Perisic to score maybe. Japan have so many players that can do something special. Like they have so many players who just all of a sudden pop up with a goal here and there. So that's the chance for Japan. But I feel like it's just going to be pretty early. Croatia are just going to basically do what they did against Canada, apart from conceding the first goal, and just basically run the game and win like 3-0 or something. I feel like that's the most likely outcome, but at the same time, I don't rule out Japan getting like a late win again, but it just feels like it's too much to ask from Japan to do it once more. And like you said, Croatia are going to be more defensively sound. They're not going to be as like nonchalant like maybe Germany were. As you can see, Rudiger making fun of the Japanese players with the running in the first match, and then it came back to bite him in the ass, which was really nice for me to see. I'm not a huge fan of Rudiger. But yeah, I feel like both with Germany, who were sort of in the first match, that was a first match shocker, and then Spain, who didn't really have much to play for. I feel like Croatia will be really up to the task, and I think they'll win the match. So yeah, sadly, gonna have to go with Croatia. I'm a big fan of Croatia, so it's not that the end of the world for me. But yeah, we'll put them through. Like I said earlier, we don't really have to say much. We've already spoken a lot about these teams. Brazil going through against South Korea. No-brainer really for me. I don't think there's really much to add. South Korea, I can't really see them getting much of a chance. 83% in favor of Brazil. Yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. Anything?
I mean, for me, the only thing that I can add is for South Korea to win would require every single offensive player of Brazil, and considering who they have, it would require all of them to be misfiring, and also would require that Heung-min Son and Hwang have like the best matches they've ever had, sort of thing. That to me is the only way where I see Brazil lose. And sadly, Brazil rested a bunch of players, and players will be back. I mean, imagine having Vinicius Jr., Neymar, Richarlison, and Rafinha. Like, the list just goes on, right? I think Brazil have to be the favorites and will win comfortably even, to be honest.
Let's move on to a slightly more interesting game. Most people in England will expect England to easily beat Senegal. That's also the expectation from 538. We have 69% for England. Nice for them against Senegal. I'm tempted to go with Senegal just to have like a differential pick. But I feel like England, they've shown through 2 of the 3 games that they have what it takes to beat the lesser teams. That's what they've shown throughout with Southgate, that against poor opposition, they can easily win. Senegal, by no means poor opposition, but in terms of like England beating like they did in the last World Cup to reach the semifinal, they beat, well, Colombia was a decent team. Sweden, maybe not so much, Kevin. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any strong feelings about this game? Because I feel like I'm gonna go with England, but I really want to go with Senegal. What do you think?
I just think England are in such a good period right now with the tournament where you've had Grealish do something positive. You've seen Callum Wilson do something positive. Rashford looks like the Rashford that we all know and love. You have Kane getting assists left and right. He hasn't scored, but he has 3 assists. You then have Foden scoring. England are just attacking really well. Maguire is still a terrible football player. It wouldn't surprise me if he gets a header and beats Senegal somehow like that. But like genuinely speaking, I think England's defense has been terrible. To be fair, like I don't think Trippier and Shaw have like Shaw's gone a few assists here and there, but defensively speaking, they've been sort of lacking and stuff. I could see Senegal nicking a goal. I could see, like a Sar or Koulibaly, uh, you know, getting something there. But I don't think it's enough, sadly, to keep England from scoring. And I think England have too many options right now. If
Yeah,
James Madison is getting benched because all these players are playing so well, they're building something there. Southgate is
yeah,
still a coward and a terrible coach and a terrible manager, but it's despite all that, this is an easy win for England. Maybe not like a
yeah,
convincing, sorry, not a convincing or easy, sorry, not an easy win, not a convincing win, but a win regardless.
yeah. They should go through, and I'm gonna have to agree and put them through. It's kind of boring to just go with the favorites all the time,
Yeah.
and I think I'm leaning towards.
France, Poland are cowards. We don't even need to talk. I'm
Let's just
sorry,
go
but
fast.
Poland are the way. My God, I've never ever been. I genuinely was repulsed by how Poland were playing against Argentina. Credit to Chesney and credit to Lewandowski, the two players who tried and did something in the sense of like, regardless of Lewandowski not scoring, I still think his hold up play and he tried to do the best he can with what he was given. Chesney saved a penalty,
Yeah,
obviously conceded twice, but still, he did his minimum requirement. But everyone else was terrible. Matty Cash was sort of on and off. France, no chance that they're going to lose to Poland.
yeah. Like you said,
Famous last words.
Chesney and Lewandowski, they are their star players. Apart from Zielinski, who you should also mention, is
Yeah,
a
of
really,
course.
really
Of
good
course.
player, playing for one of the best teams in the world, Napoli. He's also really good for them. But yeah, easily for France. Don't really have to dwell much more on it. I think Spain is kind of more interesting in terms of Morocco. I feel like Morocco, they have the star power that could beat Spain, and they have the defensive solidity. You've seen Spain sort of struggle against teams that have played, like Costa Rica was easy match for them because Costa Rica just like completely unraveled early in that match. But against Germany and against Japan, you could see them struggle a bit to score. Even though the goal against Japan looked super easy, like many times before, I feel like half of Morata's goals for Chelsea were Azpilicueta crossing in just like he did against
Yeah, I
Japan
mean that's what Tim said.
and
He's just
scoring.
like, oh, he
We've
was just
seen
like,
that
this is
before. Chelsea
nostalgic
fans
for
have seen
me.
that goal before, for sure.
Yeah,
But yeah, so I feel like this yet again. I'm gonna do the same thing as I've done with more some of these fixtures. Like I feel like the favorites might go out, but I'm still gonna pick the favorites, like the coward I am. But yeah, you have to go with Spain, I guess.
yeah.
But any chance for Morocco? Do you think?
Oh, 100%. I think Morocco's physicality and their style of play don't suit Spain in that regards because Spain have a bunch of scrawny players and all that stuff like that. But I think the technical ability of Spain,
Yeah,
they're and like if you think about the chance creation that they've done throughout the um, 3 games has been wonderful. To be honest, it's just that they, if for example, that Hakpo, Mbappe, any one of those guys are Spanish, I'd say they'd win the whole thing. The one thing they lack is an out and out striker. Not to say that Ferran Torres has done poorly. I think
yeah.
Ferran Torres has been
Morata
really
scored in
well,
all three
and I
games as
think
well.
Morata's actually done a decent job too. It's just that the quality of Spain should be enough to beat Morocco.
Yeah,
Sadly,
once again, I'm gonna go with the favorites, and then
Switzerland are going to win. Switzerland are going to win. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's got you got to give it to Portugal. The way they've been playing, uh, it's been a team effort from Portugal as well. It's clearly not just one man running the show. Well, Bruno Fernandes has been the one man, to be honest, and Leao has been amazing too. I think they could struggle with Switzerland. I think Switzerland could maybe give them a run for their money, but I just don't think it's enough. I think Portugal have enough quality to even beat Spain. To be honest,
that's what we'll get to pretty soon.
It hurts for me to say, but I think Portugal can make the bronze match to meet. See,
we'll see. We'll see. We'll get there.
We'll get there, but out of all these matches, right, that we've said so far, I feel like Netherlands are going to beat USA. I feel that Argentina is definitely going to beat Australia. Japan, Morocco, and Switzerland are actually the three teams that I would be like, if they win.
Okay.
It'll be shocking, sure, but I won't be like, whoa, wow, sort of thing. Simply because I think Switzerland could play like because Switzerland tend to do this in the knockouts, where they play this like really cowardly football to just try to iron out a win either through extra time or pens. I could see them frustrating. However, Portugal are just too good right now to be stopped. So that's why I got to give it to Portugal.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to agree with the favorite. Like you said as well, Switzerland might surprise us. They have surprised me already in this World Cup, like I said earlier. So it wouldn't be that surprising if they beat Portugal, especially considering Switzerland won their qualifying group over Italy, while Portugal finished second behind Serbia, which Switzerland beat out to face Portugal.
Yeah.
But yeah, Portugal, they just have so many star players. You can name after name really good players. Bernardo Silva, Bruno Fernandes, Joao Cancelo, Guerreiro even at left back is really good for them. Leao was amazing. Joao Felix is probably some guy I'm I'm purposely forgetting. But yeah.
Did you say Bernardo Silva? I feel like.
Yeah, I said Bernardo Silva. I think they have some other star player, but I can't remember. I think he plays in Saudi Arabia or something. But yeah, they have a really good squad of players. So yeah, but that's what I was gonna ask you. Finally, because you sort of did it on your own. But yeah, you said Spain or Portugal are the teams that might go out, or rather Morocco and Switzerland are the teams that might surprise us. Not considering Japan, Croatia, because that's obviously a sort of 50-50 game. But out of all the other matches, which underdog do you feel like have the best chance of going through? If you could pick only one. And then I'll do the same, so we'll have something interesting to say at least, rather than just favorite. Because it's not going to end up like this. One of the favorites is going to go out.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we have seen boring World Cups where it's always the favorites. Like, I've won a lot of money due to the World Cup, due to how predictable the playoffs have been and stuff like that. Like, I think in 2014, I won quite a decent amount of money because I said Netherlands, Argentina, Germany and Brazil were going to make the Final Four, and Messi winning the player of the tournament and all this type of stuff. But if I were to give it to one of the teams, just because of it obviously Switzerland beating out Portugal I would celebrate as if Sweden won the World Cup if that happens. But no offense to anyone, it's due to Ronaldo. Sorry, if Ronaldo wasn't in the team, I wouldn't care as much.
That's the guy I forgot about.
Yeah. If Ronaldo wasn't in the team, I probably wouldn't even be okay with. I love a lot of the Portuguese.
Yeah, a lot of fun players.
Joao Felix, oh my god, there's just so many amazing players, but Ronaldo's a piece of shit. So, if I were to pick one team, This might be surprising considering I'm the resident La Liga fan, but I think I'll pick Morocco, to be honest.
Yeah, Morocco looked really good this World Cup. So, and Spain have shown that they could lose
Yeah.
against Japan
Because I
with
feel
a
like
lesser team.
otherwise my pick might have been maybe USA, but
Yeah.
I feel like that's too tightly contested for me to say they are the underdog, but
You can definitely pick that match if you feel like that's a better chance than Morocco.
nah. I'd rather have Argentina beat Netherlands, so let's stick to it.
But yeah, I'm not gonna change the prediction that we have. But
No,
like,
no, of course. For you, then what would it be?
For me, like you said, Netherlands USA. I feel like that's the main match that might go the other way.
Yeah, of course.
Like I said, I think that might be extra time, and the US could pull it off. The US had a similar experience against Belgium, I think, last World Cup, or was it 2 World Cups ago? Can't you remember? When Tim Howard, that was probably 2 World Cups ago. I think.
That was whilst I was in Brazil, so 2014.
Yeah, 2014 with Tim Howard saving pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Obama was president. I remember that because he called him and stuff. But yeah. So yeah, they could have sort of a similar match, but like I said earlier, I predict Netherlands to go through just simply because they have better players. But I think that's the match for me. Other than that, I think Switzerland, Portugal. Switzerland are one of the better teams out of the underdogs.
Go on, Granite Shaka, mate.
I'm gonna mention Senegal, England as well,
Ali.
but I feel like England are just good enough to go through. But yeah, that's the less surprising part of the bracket. Just all the favorites going through. Now it gets more interesting. There's still some heavy favorites in all these matches as well.
Of course.
Pretty much in almost every game, but let's just go through them first. Argentina and Netherlands. Like I said, I expect Argentina to go through easily. I expect Netherlands to struggle a bit against the US. So I feel like it's only natural for Argentina to go through against the Netherlands.
Yeah.
I don't feel like there's much needed to be said about that.
Yeah.
Argentina just have the brighter stars, really. Well, brighter star in terms of Messi. Yeah. And just the team that's settled now with the center backs. Otamendi, Lisandro Martinez has been amazing as well. They have 3 good center backs to choose from, really, but I feel like Otamendi and Martinez is the way to go for them. 2 really aggressive center backs who do a lot of work for them. Acuna at left back, and then Molina at right back. Wasn't it? Yeah. Who's the other right back that they have? Montiel. Montiel was really bad in the match that they had from start. Really terrible. So it makes sense. Their midfield trio, like we said previously, Rodrigo de Paul, McAllister, Enzo Fernandez, amazing. And then obviously Messi and Di Maria. And then it just depends on the striker. If they want to go Alvarez, if they want to go Lautaro. I think Lautaro is going to be the man back in the starting lineup. Both of them. Lautaro has been one of the big disappointments, I feel like, so far in the World Cup. But he's shown in the qualifiers and he's shown at club level that he has all.
To be honest, he got a goal bullshitly ruled off as well. So
yeah. So I feel like he can strike back. So yeah, I feel Argentina is just, since we both don't have that much faith in the Netherlands and we have a lot of faith in Argentina, I feel like that's easy. Same here, Brazil. Easy win against Croatia. Croatia are really good, but Brazil are just another level. They've been, apart from the goal from Abubakar, they've been really defensively solid, and we know all the talents they have going forward. Neymar, Vinicius Jr., they have too many to list. Like, they have so many players on the bench that are super good. So, and
that's just talking about their offense. Everywhere else on the pitch, they're amazing too. It's just
Marquinhos, Militao. They have so many good players. Alisson in goal. You can be here all day listing really good Brazilian players. Then once again, 538 surprisingly has this almost as a 50-50 match, but I feel like most people have France as the heavy favorites in this one. But do you feel 100%. Like there's... Yeah?
So I 100% think that's a bullshit estimate. Yeah. England being this close to Kylian Mbappe, who's just doing whatever the hell he wants on the pitch. Are you crazy? No way. Especially with their defense currently. If England were defensively sound, I would have been like, this is actually a much closer game than people were expecting. About no, man. Anyone can score past this England side. No chance. France have to be the favorite.
I mean, Kyle Walker, if he starts, would have to have a masterclass defensively against Mbappe. obviously. I think that's the way they're going to lean. I think Trippier will play against Senegal, and I think Walker will play. He's obviously been injured and stuff, but he played in the final match in the group stage. He will have to have one of the matches of his life for England to have a chance there. I feel like France are just too good. I wanted to give a shout out to Antoine Griezmann as well, who was their standout player last World Cup. He's been amazing this World Cup. Like I feel like it's gonna noticed because Giroud obviously broke the record for most goals for France. Mbappe has been amazing as always, but I think Griezmann has just shown that he is the world class player that Barcelona thought they bought from Atletico Madrid. He's always been good for France. He's another one. Like people mention Kanté and Pogba. Well, Kanté is good at club level as well, but people mention Pogba as someone who steps it up for France. I feel the same for Griezmann. He might be the difference against England. I think, like you, I think France are the heavy favorites in this game. I feel like they should have way more higher than 53%. So, sadly for any England fans, Ali, if you're watching, this is where it ends for England. I think we're both pretty much in agreement there. We both have France as one of the main teams in the World Cup. This match, however, is more closer to 50-50, I feel like. They have 58% for Spain, 42% for Portugal. I feel like that's sort of correct in terms of percentages. You sort of touched upon it with Portugal, that you feel like they could even beat Spain. So are you going to stick with that, or are you going to go... Are we going to just do the whole bracket with the favorites still?
I really want to say this just so I end up being wrong, but I think Portugal could do it. I think if Spain have their shit together by the time of them playing Morocco and everything like that, then I do think I think Spain will beat Portugal. I think they're very similar in sort of play style and everything like that. They both have strikers not score. No, I'm just kidding. No, Morata scores. That's the difference, Ronaldo. But I think they have very similar talents, very similar philosophies, very similar everything. Like I think they both have aging players in the wrong spots and have the bright players and like the megastars in the right positions as well, in the sense of like they just have so much talent in abundance. I just think that this Portugal side have enough experience to sort of win this sort of game compared to Spain. I think Spain's sort of young squad might prove to be their undoing. Also because I was genuinely not impressed that they drew Germany. I think if they beat Germany, then I would have been more like, okay, they have what it takes. But I think them at the same time, at the time of them playing Germany, might have been happy with a draw. Like they just wanted to make sure they didn't lose because they went into the game probably going like, if we get a draw here and beat Japan, we're fine. And then everything went sort of tits up for them. It sucks for me to say this because I obviously would prefer Spain knocking the shit out of Portugal. I've already said it. I want Portugal to not win the World Cup. However, I think sadly, I think this is where they would edge out Spain. I hope I'm wrong, but I think so.
Yep. It's interesting, this match. And just to give some credit to Cristiano Ronaldo, finally, he has good experiences playing against, or has a good experience playing against Spain in the World Cup. He scored a hat-trick, obviously, last time around. Don't think that's going to happen this time, but I would not be surprised if he gets the winning penalty.
Class.
During full time to beat out Spain. Okay, I'll agree with you.
We can get back to it if you want to.
I sort of agree. I feel like Portugal, they have a really good team. I think the difference would be just Gavi and Pedri and the midfield for Spain against the midfield of Portugal. Obviously, Ruben Neves is a really good player. We shouldn't really cast him aside, but William Carvalho is not up to the level of any of the Spanish players.
No.
and we know the talent that Spain have going forward, as well as the strikers. Ronaldo, he's a wild he's a wild card. Ansu Fati should probably play for Spain, but yeah, Spain have a lot of players. Ferran Torres, who I'm a huge fan of, who almost scored against Japan, if not for
Asensio as well, Dani Olmo. Like, I could still see Spain winning that game. I just think it ends up being the experience. If Pedri finally wakes the hell, like, he's had people are like, oh, he's been cooking all the World Cup. I don't think he has. I've been more impressed by Gavi's play than I have been Pedri. And Musiala, hello. That's who the real golden boy is. But genuinely, if Spain's midfield play really well, they're going to win. If they don't, then I see Portugal like winning maybe like a 2-1 with a Cristiano Ronaldo pen. But okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, just one final point on the Pedri thing, because you mentioned Musiala as well. I feel like they've sort of had similar World Cups where they both have a lot more potential to get goals and assists, but that it just hasn't happened for them. But you can see just the quality of dribbling and stuff. Like, they are two of the brightest talents in the world. Like, both of them are potential Ballon d'Or winners in the future. It's hard to say with Mbappe and Haaland being so good as they are at such a young age, but if they win the World Cup, for example, they could easily be in that conversation. But yeah, only Pedri has that chance, but I don't think he'd win the Ballon d'Or even if Spain win the World Cup. But he has that talent. We both know. We both like Barcelona. Well, you love Barcelona. I'm a big fan as well of Pedri. He's amazing, and he could prove to be the difference. But he has to step up if they want to beat Portugal. So yeah, I'll agree with Portugal. Now we get to the semifinals where things kind of get interesting. Our favorite Argentina against the favorite in the World Cup, Brazil. And they're also pretty heavily favored in this match by 538. 62% for Brazil compared to 38% for Argentina. I'm going to go first this time. Sadly, it's not the end because there's a bronze final, but I feel like this is where the hopes of seeing Messi lift the World Cup trophy finally comes to an end, and Brazil do as they are expected. I selected them, but yeah, I'll let you speak on that as well. What do you think about this match? How do you feel like the percentages are?
No comments. I love Messi. No comments.
So you
no comment.
You're fine with Brazil.
Next team.
France against Portugal.
France. There's no chance. I think regardless of if they met Spain or Portugal, that France would. Okay. I think France have what it takes to go the distance. So for me, I think regardless of any one of those assholes that they meet going forward, I think France are the other favorite. I think Brazil are the top favorites, and I think France is the second favorite in that regards. I hope to be proven wrong, simply because I want to see Messi win the World Cup. I would also love for Messi to play France in the final and get revenge for the 3-2 loss. It would be so cool if Messi and Ronaldo played each other in the final. However, if they meet in the bronze match and Messi loses there, I don't give a shit because Messi came second once upon a time and Ronaldo didn't. So who gives a shit? Enjoy your third place, bitch. So, but in that regards, I think Brazil, France. I do not agree with that assessment at all if that's the final, because I don't think it's 63% to 37%. I think it's a coin toss. I think either one of those teams could win it.
Yeah, but before we move on to the final, I just want to have some more points about France, Portugal. I feel like if this happens, if Spain go through, I think they have a chance to beat France as well. I feel like they could beat France. I like France, but Mbappe, everything has gone his way so far. But we know Mbappe. If something goes wrong with him, he can get sulky. And who do they have to lean on then? I mentioned Griezmann. Obviously, I'm a big fan of his. He's really good. But Giroud in like the big matches, do we trust him to be like the main striker for France? Like, they have some issues. The midfield.
He's not the main striker for any of his club teams, let alone the national team.
Yeah.
It's such a hilarious thing about him. illustrious career, done so amazingly well, but he's not even the main striker anywhere he's played except Montpellier, really.
But yeah,
So
but
yeah,
like
I agree with that assessment. I do agree with that assessment. To be fair,
But like the midfield and also Lloris as a goalkeeper,
it's terrible.
he's old and error prone. Like I feel like there's a lot of flaws in France, but I
Yeah,
feel like in terms of just against
Mbappe and
Portugal,
Griezmann have been covering that shit up from the start.
I think against since we have them against Portugal, I think the undoing for Portugal will be their manager Fernando Santos. I feel like
Yeah,
he's gonna be have too much respect for France. They're gonna be too much like
hundred
if it
percent.
happens to
I
be
agree.
France against Portugal, I feel like that's gonna be the issue for Portugal.
A
Plus,
different manager, and I think Portugal have even what it takes to go all the way.
yeah, and
They
if
have the squad for it.
yeah,
So definitely, I agree with that.
and so that's also why they might go out against Spain. But I feel like France are more like
They will
they would take the game by the scruff of the neck more
go on Switzerland.
than Spain would. But yeah, I feel like it's mostly down to Fernando Santos being sort of a conservative, having his favorites, not playing Leao. Like Leao has been,
Also,
he's one of the best. Like he's been one of the best players in Serie A the last 2 years. He definitely should play, but he's for some reason he doesn't get to play.
and for historical connotation as well, there's no chance in hell France want to come second to Portugal again after everything that happened at the Euros in
Yeah,
France.
in France, yeah,
No chance. No chance.
that's true. But yeah, before we go to the final, we have
Sure.
to speak about potentially, like, even though it's not the final, it might be like the biggest match of all time, seeing as they would be like World Cup match of all time, seeing as it would be Messi's potentially final match in the World Cup and Ronaldo's definitely final match in the World Cup, going head to head one final time at the grandest stage, even for a third. It would be the biggest third place final of all time, at
Of course.
least.
I think Argentina win it.
Yeah, we obviously are inclined to agree on that,
I
but
think I have always said that Argentina would have had the harder way to the final because of Brazil. But then again, Portugal got unlucky that Spain came second because then Argentina definitely would have had the hardest one because then they would be potentially meeting. They could have met both Spain or Brazil or blah 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 whatever. But I just think that Argentina are coming from a tournament win and multiple. I mean, they won the Finalissima as well and all this type of stuff. I think in terms of a bronze match, it'll be sort of like a Germany Uruguay. Not to try and say that Portugal or Uruguay because they obviously won a tournament back in 2016, but
yeah,
still, that's several years ago now. I think it's just a question of they're coming off from a championship win. They know what it takes and all this type of stuff, and had it's a very similar squad, bar Cunaguero, who retired and everything like that. I think Argentina would just have what it takes to win the bronze match, which would be a nice way for Messi to bow. It would be a great way for Ronaldo to bow out too.
yeah,
Uh, but in the sense that I think their squad would just be enough to edge it. Obviously, I hope it's Argentina, France, or Argentina, Switzerland, so Argentina have an easier way to win the final. But generally speaking, I think Argentina would potentially win the hypothetical match. Messi and Ronaldo, in terms of final statistics, favors Messi. So yeah,
yeah. I think apart from the obvious Argentina Portugal against Cristiano Ronaldo final, I feel like the other poetic final win for Messi would be against England if England somehow made it there,
yeah,
because it's always been Premier League fans who have been the most vocal fans for Ronaldo because he played in the Premier League. Messi never
yeah.
played in the Premier League. It's always been like the sort of like the point against Messi in that debate. I feel like we both know, we don't even feel, we know that Messi is so much better than Ronaldo all time. Even though I have to admit, I recognize Ronaldo as the second best player of all time. It's just that Messi is that much better. But
Yeah.
that's enough. Messi and Ronaldo, we'll get to that at some other point, probably in a different podcast, maybe. Maybe we'll rank our greatest players of all time. That'll be a fun podcast. But we have one last thing to do in this podcast, and that is determine who wins the final out of Brazil and France to main actors in plenty of World Cups. Last time they met in the final, 1998, France won 3-0. I don't expect that same thing to happen again. If I'd pick one of these teams, like you said, the percentage is kind of crazy, 63% against 37%. That seems just wrong, but at the same time, I personally back Brazil. Like I said earlier at France, they have way more deficiencies within their squad than Brazil have. Brazil just have star players in every position pretty much, especially if they play Militao at right back. Right back is sort of the one spot where they have Danilo and Dani Alves. Bless his heart, Dani Alves, but he's super old. But yeah,
Bless his heart, he's super old.
I mean, he's the winningest player of all time, and
of course
he has the most trophies of all time,
and he's 38 too,
out of all the players, and he's gonna do the crowning achievement of winning a World Cup, which he has never done.
I agree.
That's our pick, both of us.
Anything
you want to add?
I think.
How do you feel about this whole prediction?
I think you made a very valid point that with Project Mbappe, Plan Mbappe, like if Mbappe screws up, everything goes to hell. Whilst with Brazil, they've shown that if Neymar doesn't show up, Richarlison can show up. If Richarlison doesn't show up, Vinicius can show up. If Vinicius doesn't show up, Rafinha can show up. Like Brazil, I think to me have more exit strategies than France do. Sadly, I just think, like you said, the flaws in France are much bigger than the flaws in Brazil. Obviously, it could go either way. It genuinely could, but I just think if you're gonna make a prediction and all that stuff and not be boring, you got to give it to Brazil because they just have world class after world class player in every position. I think this, like, regardless of whatever you want to say about Neymar and everything like that, if Neymar gets to win the World Cup, kudos to him. You know, he did something that both Messi and Ronaldo didn't. You know, to me is like if you put like the Maradona, Cruyff, Pelés of the world in one category by themselves, and if you look at the modern player that it's Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar's obviously third.
Yeah, already he's obviously third.
I mean, for me, I think it's obvious that he's third, but to everyone else, it's just like no chance. He went to France. He did it just in Spain, buddy. Like, we've seen him play. We know what he's capable of. We know that he is gonna be lauded as one of
all-time top scorer for Brazil as well.
Yeah, like we know that he's gonna be historically one of the best players of all time. If this is the way he cements it, amazing. Well done to him. Well done to all the Brazilian players if that's the case, because this is their biggest and best chance at doing this. I'm very shocked that it's been going this well, because considering everything with the Copa America loss, I thought they were for sure going to beat Argentina in the final. It was in Brazil and everything like that, but then they lost. I think it's one of those situations again where if France meet Portugal, France will definitely beat Portugal. And if Brazil meet Argentina, Brazil are going to beat Argentina because of what's happened and stuff like that. And also their squad is just amazing. Coach is doing really well too. I think Brazil are about to add another star onto their badge, and I think kudos to them. But we'll see. World Cup's been shocking so far. It wouldn't surprise me if Qatar somehow just out of nowhere won the World Cup. So we'll just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, obviously we went very safe with our picks. I think our only
of course,
only time we went against the percentages was Portugal and Spain, I feel like. So
yeah.
But yeah, sometimes you just got to go with the easy suggestion. I'm almost 100% sure we're not going to have the correct suggestion, but it is what it is. It's hard to see any of the other teams, any of the smaller teams really go far. I think Croatia have been unlucky to go in the same bracket as Brazil. If they were, for example, in the place that Senegal are in, they could easily beat England and potentially also beat France. Or if they were in, yeah, they could have done more if they had an easier path rather than Brazil, who have predicted to win the whole thing. But yeah, hopefully it's going to be a really fun World Cup. I feel like this World Cup, if it ends up like this, would be a really fun World Cup as well. A ton of huge matches. Obviously, the third place match with Messi against Ronaldo, and then the final with Brazil against France. It would be amazing to watch. So I wish you all a very fun and nice World Cup. Obviously, we'll be updating you regularly with the fantasy portion of this, but this is our final prediction. Any parting words, Kevin, before we end this almost 2-hour recording?
I would just like to say, can't wait to see Messi post on Instagram that he won the World Cup. Really hoping to see that. If not, you know what? Credit to him. I still think he's the greatest of all time, even if he doesn't win the World Cup. But I think too much weight is being put on this for these two to do it. I think even if Ronaldo wins it, I still don't think it makes him better than Messi. I think it's just now it's just a cherry on top for either one of these players to win it. I think they've etched their legacy with everything that they've done so far and everything they will continue to do. Hopefully we get to enjoy these guys a little bit longer. I obviously want Messi to go back to Barcelona for one last dance. I would love it if Ronaldo went back to Real Madrid just to hate him even more. Like I wouldn't mind him doing that and for that battle to continue for a bit longer.
Also, as a Barcelona fan, you'd like that because Real Madrid would lose more matches.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they'd lost quite a lot when he was there, at least in the league, in terms of the league. Yeah. But generally speaking, I think if it plays out like this, we're going to see amazing matches and stuff like that. Yeah. That's all I can ask for as well in the World Cup, that now that we've seen so many fun conclusions to group stage, I just want that to continue in terms of the World Cup knockouts. Like, I'd be really annoyed if people play defensive football. My only piece of advice for all these teams, because a lot of the teams that are here do not show too much respect for your opponents. Just play your football. The ones that have played their football are the ones that have achieved well in this tournament as well. So like Japan against Croatia, play your football. Switzerland against Portugal, play your football. Morocco against Spain, play your football. USA Netherlands, play your defensive football if that's what you need to do to get you there. That's all I can say. And I really can't wait for this to kick off. And yeah, I think it's tomorrow, isn't it? For Argentina, I'm super
Netherlands
excited.
Up first, and then Argentina in the second match.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited. I'm sort of anxious to start watching these matches again, because I think, like we've been saying for a while, that this could be really historical stuff, especially if Argentina and Portugal make the final somehow. Oh my fucking God, what a final that would be. That will, again, for me, it's not the end all be all. If Messi wins, that doesn't make him the definitive GOAT, when I already think he is.
Yeah.
And if Ronaldo wins, I don't think it makes him the definitive GOAT either. So it's man, there's just so much stakes and everything involved that this could just be such a crazy World Cup. Yeah. That being said, if Argentina don't win it and Portugal win it, I'll put an asterisk on the World Cup due to the human rights and the fact that the World Cup was being hosted by Qatar and everything like that. So good luck, Portugal. Good luck any other team that I dislike. And to be completely honest, I don't really dislike any of the teams. I only dislike Portugal because of Cristiano Ronaldo. If he somehow got sent home and doesn't get a winner's medal if Portugal win it, kudos. Well done. That's how you need to do it, Portugal.
Kind of like
that's
in
how
the
you
Euros.
have an impact. Yeah, exactly. Well, or in the case of like was it Klasinic or Kalinic, the Croatian striker who just left after the group stages and then they made
Mm.
it to the final. And he was like, oops, I regret doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Do that with Ronaldo and I'll back you guys all the way. Screw it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just on that final, the point that you made that you don't really put that much weight into the World Cup as like the end all be all for greatest of all time. Like you said, if Ronaldo wins it, he's way past his prime. Like, why would that affect his greatest of all time status that much? I don't really understand it. It's mostly if Portugal win it, unless he scores like a hat trick in the final or something. But if Portugal win it, it will be mostly up to Portugal just having the best squad that they've had of all time around Ronaldo. Pretty much. And we all know Messi should have won the World Cup if Higuain could score for worth a damn. So as well, like, it's not Messi's fault that Higuain missed a sitter against Germany and he didn't win the World Cup back then. So yeah, as much as we love the World Cup and want it to be like the main thing, there's a special kind of magic with the World Cup. But in terms of greatest of all time, I don't put that much weight into it. Obviously the greats, Pele, Maradona, they won it, but Messi doesn't have to win it to be the greatest of all time. And on that note, bye-bye. Have a wonderful World Cup. I hope to see you again next time when we do Wednesday. We do our quarterfinals match day squads for the World Cup Fantasy. And with that, I'll say goodbye. See ya. Bye-bye.